Hello, everyone. How's it going? Very excited to be here today. Stuck in my house and stuck in Port's house, talking about his absolutely fantastic and brand new book, which is now out there in stores and online at Eason.com. The Monsters of Rookhaven. Good afternoon, morning, whatever time it is right now. How are you doing, sir? Yeah. Where are we? How are you keeping?
Good. Not too bad.
Yeah, good. Everything been? I suppose it's been an interesting 2020 for you, getting through things.
Yeah, interesting, but also boring as well. Doing a lot of work.
Well, this is it. And knowing this book has been coming out all along, is probably just trying to get to the point where is it coming out?
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, you've people would know you from Tin and Pod. However, to say this one goes on a slightly darker route, darker with sprinkles of light, I suppose, is the best way. Would you be able to tell us very quickly in a short, say, minute-long, spoiler-free, how would you describe what this book is?
Yeah, it's a darkish kind of children's fantasy set after World War II, and it concerns a family of monsters that live in this house hidden behind this magical glamour. And there's a girl in the house called Mirabelle. Her family are monsters. And a pair of orphans managed to somehow get through the magical glamour, and a kind of certain chain of events is set in place. So that's really the bare bones of it. And the monsters in the house have a kind of a deal going with the local village, and things become a bit more complicated when something happens inside the house. Because I came up with this idea of, what if we had a house of monsters, but there was a monster that the monsters were afraid of? So I'll kind of leave it at that.
That's a good place, just as you're entering into spot. I was about to shout, "God, spoiler free!" So the process. So after your other two books, like, has this been in your head for a long time, or like has it existed? Did it just kind of, that was your next? How does it work? That work for you? That process, or have you kind of a few different ideas floating around, and this is the one that kind of?
Yeah, it's funny. Normally an idea will be in my head for a really long time, and I'll let it kind of sit for a bit and kind of simmer until I know it's becoming something solid. But with this one kind of came together really quickly, and I'd love to know how and why. I don't really remember how it happened, but it happened fairly quickly. It just started with a couple of elements. I normally start with an image, and for this one, I had an image of two girls in a dark forest. And I knew they were friends, and that was really the beginning of this one anyway.
Yeah, and then from that point of there's not even a hint of monsters at that point. It's just like, oh, two girls are in a forest and they're friends. But the one thing about this is the various characters, both at the front and even the smaller characters, get their kind of that kind of process. How did you get to that point where it took you down this? And it is quite a dark but extremely enjoyable book, and we'll come on to the illustrations later. But how did it move from that to that?
Yeah, again, I wish I knew. It's funny because it kind of happened in a really, really strange way that I can't really remember. But I started with the friendship with these two girls, and I think the next thing that came into place was this house. I knew it was in a forest, and I knew a family of monsters lived in it. And again, then it was just a matter of figuring out the relationships then. These two girls, this family, and it was going okay for a while. And I thought, yeah, this seems like a good idea. But then again, as I said to you a minute ago, what really kicked it off for me then was, what if we have a family of monsters and people are afraid of them? But what kind of monster would monsters be afraid of?
Yeah.
And then I figured out what kind of monster that would be, and I realized, well, you know what, I have a really kind of meaty idea here, and I can kick off from there. And that's really what helped advance the book, And once I had that idea, that new monster, kind of things kind of fell into place for me,
And the family themselves are like to say they're a fascinating bunch would be an understatement. It'll be funny when people are reading it. I'm sure it'll become, everybody has their favorite character, I suppose. Mine would be Piglet, hands down, who's totally fascinating individual. Even his pages, the way they're drawn. But like that's the kind of stuff that like you always want to ask writers, like how does that even like where does the, I know you're saying oh, that just popped into your head, but the idea to expand this family, was that the slow build was all about that, was it? The family was always going to be kind of the base of it in this house.
Yeah, they were, and I knew I knew they all had to be strange, and then it was a challenge for me then. Right, they're going to be strange. Why are they going to be strange? So how weird and wonderful can I make them be? So I'd start with a character and I'd say, well, this person can do this. I'm not giving too much away. When I came up with the idea of a character, I said, what if I had a woman made completely from spiders? You know, so I kept just building on stuff like that. And what if I had another character that was like this and another monster that did that?
Yeah.
And ostensibly they look human, but they have some weird characteristic, you know? It's kind of like an Addams Family-esque kind of vibe, you know? So that's what I went with. And I kept trying to challenge myself as to how strange I could make them be.
Yeah.
But also, which is really important for me, is no matter how strange they were, make them somehow human in some way, that we could empathize with them and understand them, you know? Because that was an important part of the book for me. They may well be monsters, but I need the reader to understand that they're much more than that. They're more human in some respects than monsters.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you touched on that, because that was the one thing, like we're all monsters, Paul. We're all monsters deep down. But no, it was interesting that even the most vicious of them, weakness is not the word, but they have this soft spot that you're kind of going, that person was a bit of and now I kind of understand, and that you can feel that when you're reading through, and that was interesting because normally it's fairly black and white. So I really enjoyed that, and I love the relationship between Jem and Mirabelle, like human and another. But that obviously was really, so with that being the basis, like you can just tell their friendship from the get-go was brilliant. So obviously that was a key part for you.
Yeah, that was really important for me, and I kind of subconsciously when I was writing it as well, it was important for me that they had to be two girls and a female friendship, because you have problems in the house with whoever's in charge, and whoever's in charge happens to be male, and we have problems in the village, and whoever's in charge, it's really patriarchal, you know. And I wanted these two girls to be kind of not so much in conflict with this, but to perform a kind of something in opposition to that, kind of, you know. We've had a village where men have been in charge for so long, but particularly after World War II, and we have a house here where a man is in charge, and these two girls are what I hoped would maybe in their friendship maybe bring the two worlds together in some way, and giving you kind of leadership, I think, you know, without getting too, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love their friendship and that whole base of the story. And what I also love is and I kind of touched on it earlier, is even the smallest characters have like they're at the forefront. So it's like usually you'd have one or two or whatever kind of key characters, and there's these other characters that float behind. But even whether it's the monsters or whether it's in the village, is it Freddy? Is that his name?
Freddy,
yeah. So even someone like that, who's kind of a floating through character, gets his moment, and that to me is as important as you know the leads, and it's just interesting not just to have a focus on one or two characters. So it's a huge kind of, you know, what's called landscape of characters. Talk to me about Ed Bettison, because you know this guy, good God, like it really lends itself to the book. At what point was that part of the process? Was that always the idea, or does whoever read it in Macmillan suddenly go, this should be illustrated? Or what was your feeling?
Yeah, it was the very first meeting with Macmillan. They said, we love this idea. What we see is really given that extra level is a special illustrator of some sort, you know. So they really wanted to go all out in terms of design and in terms of illustrator, and it added an extra dimension, you know, to the words. So they always had it in their heads to give it that special lift, you know. But as a writer, when you start off with that, you don't know what to expect. And then a few months down the line, you see the first illustrations and you go, oh my God, these are incredible. These are nothing like I would have imagined. And again, they add that extra layer and they add atmosphere, and it's just Ed's work is just incredible.
Yeah.
You know,
It does. It lends like it's a whole new level of lens to the book because you're trying to visualize, and when said character, baddie, whatever you want to call him, turns up again, illustration's fantastic. There's definitely for me, it's Adam's Family, it's Beatles. There's many different aspects, and I've absolutely adore reading it. Just my final ones, little kind of, they're always my token kind of queries that I'm always fascinated by. Are you someone who listens to music while writing, or can you not focus if there's music playing in the background? Are you one of those people?
Yeah, it depends. I tend not to listen to music, but a funny thing with this one was I was really stuck at one point with the book.
Yeah.
Because I think tone and mood is important for me, and I wanted to get a certain tone and certain mood. And tone and mood kind of gets the ball rolling for me in terms of writing the story. And I was stuck. And then I think it was John Kelly played a Hillary Woods track on his show. It was Inhaler. And I heard it. And the minute I heard it, it was like, wow, yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. I mean, I could never aspire to the genius in that 4-minute track, but it kind of led me towards a certain atmosphere and a certain tone. And that kind of unlocked lots of things for me. So in the back of my mind, as I was writing the novel, that track was constantly playing, that kind of mood.
That's it, because I couldn't stop listening, and I've actually gone blank on the name. Ryan Gosling's band. I'll send you the like. I know that makes no sense. You're like, what? But he has this very weird band that literally this book was written as a soundtrack for a while. That's brilliant. And then finally, in the writing process, do you write at home? Have you got a room of doom where you lock yourself away, or is it cafes or?
Yeah, no. I mean, I started writing the book right here on this couch. Odd enough, but I tend to move around a bit because I find my brain gets bored wherever I am. So I might write here, write in the dining room, write in the sitting room. I can write anywhere, so I'm fairly happy with that. It doesn't bother me where I am.
Good to know.
Here's where it all started.
Well, at this moment in time, couch is probably the best place to write these days. Yeah. But listen, absolutely brilliant to talk to you. Monsters of Rookhaven is now out in stores, Eason stores, and all good bookshops. Available at Eason's online as well. It's an absolutely rip-roaring read. I would absolutely, turn the lights on, obviously, when you're reading it. And Pádraig, thanks a million. Best of luck, and see you again.
Thanks.
Yeah.